silly fool, and I will kill you! I will show you who rules Gotham City!
Okay, son. Show me.
Lolcows. You've heard of the term if you're on the internet for long enough. Everyone knows of at least one. A few common examples are Darkside Phil, Wings of Redemption, Chris Chan, and Boogie2988. My personal go-tos for when I need someone to laugh at are the basement pisser himself, the Quartering.
Oh my god. I just peed in my basement.
Ethan Ralph, who I couldn't find a good clip to use, so I'm just going to show his face after he got beat up in Portugal, and Haas Two Holes from Infrared, whose clip I feel would be better played at the end of the video. You couldn't see my air quotes, unfortunately. All of these individuals I've named have been mocked by various people of various walks of life. And much like the people who make fun of them, lolcows those are very varied. They come in all different races, ages, genders, and backgrounds. And I'm here to talk about a relatively unknown one by the name of GG Maidenslayer, the mid-tier god, also known as Quackerman, which is the name I'm going to refer to him as. Although, that being said, he is more than just someone who should be laughed at for reasons I'll explain. Anyways, as usual, don't harass anyone I bring up in this video. The main subject of this video is active on Twitter for most of the time, so I'm mostly putting this here in case he decides to try and flag this video for harassment. That being said, if he tries to harass you or a friend of yours, you're more than welcome to just respond to him with this video as a way to shut him down. Now, there are two communities that Quackerman has interacted with, the VTubing community and the fighting game community. I'm mostly going to focus on the former since, aside from the obvious fact that I am a VTuber, there's also the fact that I don't know much about the FGC, but if you want to take from the latter's perspective, there's this channel called Fallout Plays that put out a video, which I'll link in the description. Although I will bring up the FGC connection in some detail, but only the parts that are relevant to why I'm calling him Quackerman. And given that said part did give me an excuse to rewatch one of the fight scenes from the Dark Knight Returns animated adaptation, since I figured I could use it for transition cards. And in case you're curious, the reason I did that is because, aside from the fact that it just looks cooler than just having solid color, there's also the fact that this essay is probably going to piss off Quackerman as much as possible. So I might as well go the extra mile and remind him of his most embarrassing moment that most people outside of the VTubing community know him from. Anyways, let's begin.
You weak old man! You're slow!
True, but we're all slow when we're thigh-deep in mud.
Quackerman, which is the name I'm going to refer to him as, and I will explain why in a second, is a Twitter user who is a furry that basically has made it his mission to antagonize the VTuber community as much as possible. He's also quite homophobic and transphobic. Basically, if you're part of the LGBT community, you're on his bad side. He's also quite fond of using the N-word, soft A, not hard R. So you'll have to forgive me for not reading any tweets of his I show out loud since, well, I'm white. And no, I won't read them on the Mega Videos version or for money. If you want someone to read them, go get Static Tokyo or another black VTuber to talk about this guy. He is also rather anti-NSFW content. Now, if you don't want to consume NSFW content, that is perfectly fine. But there's a difference between not consuming something and harassing the people making said things. He's also 17, according to a message he sent the woman who proofreads my scripts in October last year. And that might have actually gotten me to decide against making a video on him if it wasn't for something else I remembered, which I'll get to later. I normally wouldn't really make note of whatever someone's kinks are unless it's either something that's really prevalent in their work, as was the case with Fallout the Frontier. There's plenty of videos out there if you want to know about that. Or if it's something that's actually against the law, which I talked about an example of in my first essay. However, I'm doing that in this case because it's relevant to why he's called Quackerman. And no, it's not a name he chose voluntarily, for reasons I'll explain why in a minute. Now, if you happen to have no idea who he is, tell me your secret. I probably would be in a slightly better place if I had not encountered him either. But if you have heard about him, and he didn't make first contact, you probably know about him through his constant attempts to harass various other VTubers, his claims he was responsible for temporary Twitch bans of certain VTubers, his history with Sonic Fox, or his attempt to raid the Discord server of a VTuber by the name of Sandstone.
What was that?
Just the right kind of cut above the eyes. The kind that bleeds.
On June 24th, 2023, Quackerman attempted to raid Sandstone's Discord server. But, well, basically the entire server had no idea who he was. And to make things worse for Quackerman, Sandstone was asleep. He did realize quickly that he wasn't going to get anywhere with his attempt at a quote-unquote raid, so he left rather quickly. And Sandstone got lucky and managed to avoid his raid. She did post about it on Twitter, and well, that went viral, which led to me seeing it. Quackerman has somewhat of an odd obsession with Sandstone. Every time he's come back, she's one of the first, if not the first, person he will go after. In fact, Sandstone has actually been very public with the messages Quackerman sends to her. I actually went out of my way to speak to her, and she did confirm that she has not withheld anything from him. However, much like with my previous essay, this one has been one that has been basically stewing in the back of my mind for quite a while, since it was actually an exchange Quackerman had with the VTuber smug Alana that inspired me to make this. A while back, Quackerman decided to pretend to be another VTuber, Kanakamori, and I guess the correct word would be convince Alana to quit. I don't know if there is a better term for this. Alana decided to post these messages, and I pointed out that the user handle was in character from Quackerman. Alana asked if there was a video on the guy, and while False Eyes D did briefly cover him, there isn't a full-fledged video on the guy. So I figured, why not? Yes, I know that happened a while back, but I didn't make video essays at the time. So, let's talk about that name. I mentioned how he's known in two communities and the other was the FGC. Well, this is where they come to play. Quackerman's name, the one he goes by, not the one I call him, the one he goes by being GG Maidenslayer, the mid-tier god, was inspired by low-tier god who he was a fan of at one point. His words, not mine. I'm not sure if he still is a fan. Yeah, some of this stuff is based on memory since he has had quite a few accounts suspended, so you'll have to forgive me for not being able to give as many citations as I would like to. However, he was able to challenge the pro FGC player Sonic Fox to a 1v1 match. Now, this match had a rather interesting bet. If Quackerman won, Sonic Fox would pay him 10 grand. I'm not sure how much money FGC players make, but I'm going to guess this is something Sonic Fox could have afforded since he's really well known. Or alternatively, since he didn't specify the currency, perhaps he intended to pay Quackerman in Iranian rial. However, if Sonic Fox won, Quackerman would have to become a furry. I'm not sure how that is supposed to work, at least if my understanding of what a furry is correct, but Quackerman agreed. As for how the match went, well, rather than tell you, I'll just show you.
Seriously, is this what we doing now? Oh, okay. I was about to do that. Seriously? Oh my fucking gosh. I do not play this game like I usually do. Gosh.
I know almost nothing about Mortal Kombat, but based on how that clip ended, and this is from Quackerman's channel, not Sonic Fox's, I'm going to assume that Quackerman rage quit. Because he tried to avoid filling his end of the bet, everyone pretty much agreed that his fursona was that of a duck, and well, that's why people will call him Quackerman. Although, wouldn't the correct term technically be feathersona instead of fursona? I don't know, I don't know much about furries. Anyway, because Sonic Fox is pretty big, his YouTube and Twitter accounts have over 6 digits worth of followers. This led to a fair number of artists drawing Quackerman's new fursona. And I also imagine Sonic Fox got a few VTuber fans as a result. It's actually what inspired me to follow Sonic Fox on Twitter, that's for sure. If Sonic Fox sees this, just know that you have my permission to do whatever the hell you want with this video essay. And I don't just mean in terms of React content. If you want, you have my full consent to download a copy of this and re-upload it on your channel if you want. Anyways, because Sonic Fox is queer and non-binary, Quackerman obviously took this pretty poorly, and has been trying to get a rematch with Sonic Fox ever since. Sonic Fox has either just laughed him off or ignored him each time, which honestly is the correct way for someone like him to deal with Quackerman. And in case you're wondering, yes, that match is why I decided to use clips from the aforementioned The Dark Knight Returns scene, but with Sonic Fox's and Quackerman's faces pasted over Batman's and the mutant leader's faces. Mainly because it'll remind him of his match against Sonic Fox. Aside from Sandstone and Smugglana, Quackerman has attempted to, I guess the correct word is intimidate other VTubers, but all of his attempts have been met with either confusion or laughter. Because there are quite a few where he sent a message, they posted it and laughed at him. Now, my original plan was to publish a montage, but, well, that didn't work because Vinci Resolve didn't recognize everything. Then I was going to post an Imgur album with a bunch of tweets, but Imgur didn't recognize those. So I went with my third and current plan of just posting the tweets periodically throughout the video. Anyways, back to your regular video. Now, Quackerman apparently wants to join the UFC, and to him, I have one question. You are aware that their code of conduct prohibits discrimination, right? To quote, "Discipline may be imposed for misconduct, which includes, without limitation, the following examples: derogatory or offensive conduct, including, without limitation, insulting language, symbols, or actions about a person's ethnic background, heritage, color, race, national origin, age, religion, disability, gender, or sexual orientation." So yeah, all those homophobic and transphobic remarks you've made, yeah, those violate UFC code of conduct. You might be able to find a job at WWE as a heel who gets a black eye in each match. In other words, you could be the second coming of X-Pac, but your UFC journey was over long before it started. Now, I feel there was something else I should mention. Oh right, I haven't really gone on into the worst thing he's done, and arguably the one thing that made me decide against making this a completely mockingness. We've got something serious to talk about.
That a tickle?
That was a nerve bundle in your deltoid. Might not have hurt, but you won't be moving that arm for a while.
I did mention that there was something else I should mention about this guy earlier, and, well, I'm coming back to that point. I'd also like to state that this next segment is going to be serious, so no more jokes from here on now. While I was making this script, I remembered a few VTubers that Quackerman had interactions with on a regular basis aside from Sandstone. Neri Corey was one that came to mind, and she was polite, but didn't really have anything of note to contribute. Then I remembered Ouroboros, who will become relevant in a second. For this next story, we have to go to the land down under, and to the agency VSin, whose talents represent the 7 deadly sins. Quackerman has somewhat of an obsession with 2 talents from this agency, namely Gamma Inc., who represents the sin of wrath, and a former talent, now indie, named Kurumi, who used to represent the sin of greed. Kurumi is a yandere VTuber who also happens to have borderline personality disorder, and as someone who is also neurodivergent, autistic in my case, I hope you'll understand why I felt the need to make this video in light of what I'm about to tell you. Believe it or not, Quackerman actually started out simping for Kurumi. She rejected him, and that caused Quackerman to start harassing Kurumi with death threats. He also decided to try and scam people by using Kurumi's condition to launch a fraudulent GoFundMe. Kurumi found out and threatened legal action for both that and the harassment he sent her way. Basically, if CoffeeZilla ever starts covering incels or VTubers, or both, Quackerman is a perfect starting point to the transition. This is where Ouroboros comes into play. I didn't get a screenshot of Quackerman's post, but thanks to some of the tweets Ouroboros made, which I am showing on screen now, I found out about all the stuff I just told you guys about. I reached out to Ouroboros and he did respond and was quite cooperative. He did confirm that he saw what was in this tweet and sent me a link to a bunch of other tweets Quackerman made in this Imgur album that are pretty damn homophobic and transphobic. I'm not going to show all. Before I move on to conclude things, I'd like to state that if Kurumi does see this, you did nothing wrong. You already have a lot to deal with in life, and this guy did not help at all. You basically had to deal with a real-life equivalent of Syndrome from The Incredibles, and no one should have to deal with that, and I wish you the best.
You don't get it, son. This isn't a mud hole. It's That's an operating table. And I'm the surgeon.
Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I probably won't make a follow-up, since unless it turns out that there's a lot of stuff that I missed, I don't really feel the need to do so. I'd like to close things out by thanking Ouroboros, whose tweets and his archiving of Quackerman's tweets made making this video possible, as well as Sandstone, who was very cooperative, and oddly enough, Quackerman himself, whose very visible trail made tracking down evidence easy. Is there anything else I have left to do? Oh right, I did say that I'd play a certain clip at the beginning of the video, and since it's the audio in that particular clip that's important, I think I'll have MC Haas play the video off. I'm Andreas Warbel, and I'll see you on my next assignment.
There are only 2 holes! Whoa! There are only 2 holes! Whoa! There are only 2 holes! Whoa! There are only 2 holes!